Are we doing side ponies and cigarettes again? Is she wearing a poodle skirt? We just can't see the bottom there. I mean, it would make sense because her racism really fits in well with the 1950s aesthetic.
What is going on, cousins, and welcome back again on another episode. How are you all doing today? I really hope you guys are doing great. And if you are joining for the very first time, thank you so much as well for being here today. If you've been on the media, I know everybody knows that what is all over the media is about the things going on between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and it has not been a very easy watch. The videos I have been seeing, especially on Instagram and Twitter, breaks my heart so much because I don't think anybody should support the massive genocide of kids. But in the midst of all of that, this is what a Caucasian woman has to say about what is going on, because I am still looking for a place where this makes sense. Let me roll the clip so we all can be on the same page.
Do y'all remember when BLM burned down the entire country in the name of racial justice? Well, the organization has now come out in support of Hamas terrorists. I guess they meant it when they said all lives didn't matter, because some lives are clearly worth more than others.
Number of Black people that I have seen speak up about what is going on right now are supporting the people who are being oppressed. A video left so many people with two questions, like, when did this happen? When did the Black people burn down the entire country? Because there is no way that could have happened and people will forget. Because she was saying, have you forgotten when the BLM burned down the entire country? When exactly did that happen? Another question a lot of people were asking is, how did Black people even get into this conversation? The only conversation we are having right now is about what is going on in Israel and Palestine. And now you are talking about Black people. How did you bring Black people into this? Like, what route? How did Black people even get into this conversation? Because this is something that has happened over time. When something is going on, the only way they can shine or bring some attention to their page or what they have to say is basically putting Black people into their conversation. People are coming for her, and here is what the people have to say about our video.
Do y'all remember when BLM burned down the entire country in the name of racial justice?
You have a side ponytail. And no, we don't remember that because that shit didn't fucking happen. If the whole country burned down, then how are we still here in the country? I'll tell you what I do remember, though. I remember non-Black people pretending to be allies and showing up in support of Black Lives Matter and defacing property and doing things that they knew we would take the fall for. I also remember police intentionally setting up bricks and things that could cause destruction, hoping that we would take the bait and deface some property and then be seen as the aggressors. I remember that. And I also remember that every time something happens to another community, even if we aren't involved, somebody will try to scapegoat us in the argument. They'll try to bring us up and try to use us as some type of lesson for everybody else. You need to mind your business. You guys are the ones who are wrong here. You're standing on the side of genocide. You guys are all the oppressors. We're standing with the oppressed. So when we say free Palestine, that's what the fuck we mean. We didn't say anything to you. You need to mind your business and stop talking about Black people. We don't have anything to do with y'all side.
Do y'all remember when BLM burned down the entire country in the name of racial justice?
Nope. But what I do remember is Black people protesting in the name of racial injustice and Black people setting their own communities, heavy on own communities, ablaze because the living conditions were so bad that the only way for them to get attention was to cause such a disruption. The living conditions were so bad that some people didn't even have drinking water. The water was dirty, Flint, Michigan. But of course you wouldn't get that as you try to play the victim while you live your privileged life in that nice ass backyard. And see, your goal was to try to gaslight Black people by comparing that to what's happening in Israel and Palestine, which is absolutely not the same thing. Imagine comparing a genocide in a whole nother country to a whole group of people, to people protesting in their own communities and demonstrating in their own communities just to get people to pay attention enough to want to do something about it. And this is why y'all got to be careful with that fake ally shit, because it be the same people that went to a protest that's going to turn around and try to throw it in your face as soon as you can't support the tomfoolery that they got going on. Anyway, free Palestine until it's backwards.
Do y'all remember when BLM burned down the entire country in the name of racial justice? Well, the organization...
On today's episode of How Did Black Americans Get in It? How did we get in it? And the thing is, okay, first of all, you know I would never stitch or elevate the original content creator, so please go watch the stitch of the Black girl's video who I'm stitching. Hey, fellow sis. My problem is that We know that most Black Americans do not support the larger, overarching Black Lives Matter organization because of all the insidious shit that they got caught doing, having their hand in the cookie jar. But the term Black Lives Matter, we know at a large, is just an overarching term that's used to kind of talk about the millennial movement, specifically of the liberation of Black bodies and Black people here in America and / globally. Why are we talking about us right now when you, Bookie Butt, your community who couldn't even let a whole 100 years cook before y'all hit a 360 and took that mask off y'all own oppressors and put it right on y'all face? Baby, don't say nothing to us. Baby, if we not talk about the Palestinians, shut it up. How do we even get in the conversation? Y'all be trying to divert it and reroute it and all this other stuff. We're talking about the Palestinians. The only other Black people y'all need to be talking about right now is Haitians. Okay? If you ain't talking about Haitians or Palestinians, hush it up. We don't want to hear it. All right? We cooling right now. We chilling. Don't bring no smoke over here while we try to support others. Okay? It's some real world shit going on. How did we even get in it? What you really wanted to say was you see Black Americans at a large supporting Palestinians as a large on social media, so you feel a type of way. But baby, there's historical context, historical precedents, and historical link-ups, baby. And Black Americans is never going to stand on the side of an oppressor that we recognize. We see you, boo. We see you down. Shout out to the people who are part of the Jewish community that are not standing on the side of genocide. Baby, Palestinians, Haitians. Say it with me now. Palestinians, Haitians. Them is the only two people that need to be discussed. Wrap this shit up.
Meant it when they said all lives didn't matter, because some lives are clearly worth more than others.
What? And I want to emphasize this next part. The hell are you talking about? You made two false assertions in this video. I want to address each one in turn. First, you said, do y'all remember, verbatim, you said, do y'all remember when BLM burned down the entire country in the name of racial justice? Buki, how we gonna remember something that didn't happen? At this juncture, I'd like to provide evidence that the entire country was not burned down. Here we go. Let me just go. That's me standing in a country that clearly was not burned down. I hope that helps. Addressing the second assertion you said that BLM, the organization, has come out in support of Hamas terrorists. Are you aware that Black Lives Matter chapters across the country are, number one, sometimes not affiliated with each other, but number two, oftentimes not affiliated with the Black Lives Matter Global Network, the national organization that I believe you were talking about in your video? But just to cover my bases, I went to the National Black Lives Matter website to see if they said anything about Israel or Palestine and the current events going on, and I didn't see anything. To my knowledge, they haven't made a single statement about what's happening. So when you posted a video saying that Black Lives Matter, the organization, came out in support of pro-Hamas terrorists, as of today, I don't think that's correct, beloved.
Do y'all remember when BLM burned down the entire country in the name of racial justice?
No, nobody remembers it. And going off how I went through all of your videos to find you talking about how the whole country had been burnt down and I couldn't find anything, you don't remember it either. It's almost like it didn't happen. But I did find this.
Today I want to tell you why I don't support the Black Lives Matter movement, but I ask that you actually listen to this and not just assume that I'm a white supremacist or a bigoted conservative. I don't support Black Lives Matter as an organization because none of the money actually goes to bettering Black community.
You see, that's you, associating Black Lives Mattering, my life mattering, with an organization, and saying that the reason you don't like it isn't because they burnt down the country, but because of money. Now, my memory ain't what it used to be, but I can tell you one thing. I remember how often white supremacists use that talking point. And I'm reminded constantly of how much pro-Israel people use the same talking points as white supremacists. But maybe my memory's just bad.
Do y'all remember when BLM burned down the entire country in the name of racial justice? Well, the organization has now...
I don't remember that, but I do remember Charlottesville. Do you remember that? Do you remember the Unite the Right? Remember they did it twice? Remember they killed that white girl that was standing with BLM? Do you remember that? Do you remember BLM was there fighting against that? Do you remember what the boys were saying? The Tiki Torch boys? Do you remember what they were saying? Do you remember how they were saying blood and soil? Do you remember how they were saying Jews will not replace us? Do you remember how they carried out terrorist attacks against a synagogue in Pittsburgh? Do you remember that? Because I remember that. Do you remember that there's terrorist organizations right now in the United States that were saying all lives matter when we said Black Lives Matter, and those same people gunned down Jewish people in their synagogues? Do you remember that? Because I remember that. I remember that. You don't like this because BLM, Black people, have always stood with the oppressed and not the oppressor. You siding with the wrong people.
Meant it when they said all lives didn't matter, because some lives are clearly worth more than others.
Did I miss the memo? Are we doing side ponies and cigarettes again? Is she wearing a poodle skirt? We just can't see the bottom there. I mean, it would make sense because her racism really fits in well with the 1950s aesthetic. I am always genuinely amazed at motherfuckers coming out here saying the wildest shit with their whole chests. If you want to talk about valuing some lives over others in the conversation about the atrocities that the Israeli government is perpetrating in Gaza right now, let's do it. Because I will tell you, the US news media has made it painfully clear that they think Israeli lives are worth more than Palestinian lives, and quite frankly, that they think Palestinian lives are expendable altogether. If you watch any major network news program, you might forget the Palestinians even exist at all. The Nation just did an amazing piece on this. They noted that NBC Nightly News, which is one of the most watched programs in the country, did an entire 21-minute long broadcast about the situation unfolding, where they did the following. They did interviews with the families of people who are feared to have been taken hostage by Hamas. They did interviews with people who were victims of an attack on a kibbutz. They did a piece about pro-Israeli protests on college campuses. And they did a report about how Israel is a country forever changed. Meanwhile, Lester Holt reported the bombing as a way to keep up the pressure on Hamas. And he spent 22 seconds of a 21-minute long broadcast talking to a Palestinian mother whose son was killed by what Holt called Israeli retaliatory strikes. And not what it was, which was indiscriminate carpet bombing. No other mentions of the Palestinians who have been victims of ongoing violence for decades. No mention of just how insane this bombing campaign is, with over 6,000 bombs dropped in Gaza. No acknowledgement of the fact that the Israeli government has already killed thousands of Palestinian civilians, including children and babies who have to be stored in literal ice cream trucks because there's nowhere else to fucking put them. All this among the backdrop of Israeli President Isaac Herzog saying the following. It's not true, this rhetoric about Gazan civilians being not aware and not involved. Literally saying that Palestinians are indistinguishable from Hamas, which we know could not be further from the motherfucking truth. But people in Tel Aviv certainly seem to be eating up that propaganda, as they were photographed holding signs that literally read Genocide Gaza. Our U.S. news coverage says Israel is bombing nests of terrorists. Ah, the casual racism of messaging copy and pasted from the Israeli military. Meanwhile, the fact that people in Gaza have nowhere else to go, well, that's just being reported as something that Palestinians are alleging. Oh, and by the way, there's tons of coverage of the Israeli defense minister, yet it always seems to conveniently leave out the fact that he called Palestinians human animals. And in this NBC broadcast, his calls to decimate Gaza were reframed in only a way that a corporate PR machine could do. Instead, he was calling to reshape Gaza forever. That sounds a little bit different from leveling it to fucking dust. Marco Rubio called Palestinians savages on CNN, and our buddy Jake Tapper didn't do a goddamn thing about it. Lindsey Graham said Israel should level Gaza, and Fox News said that's A-okay. And Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett? Ooh, this is a good one. When he was questioned on Sky News about the threats to Palestinian infants in Gaza, he said, "Are you seriously gonna keep asking me about Palestinian civilians? What's wrong with you?" And that's because in Israeli and American and Western discourse on the whole, Palestinian deaths are apparently just the way of the world. So why are we even talking about them? Even the supposed beacon of quality journalism, the New York Times, has run more op-eds and letters from alleged liberals talking about Hamas and Israel's right to defend itself, and it has run exactly one op-ed from a Palestinian in Gaza. But you go off, sis. I really want you and everyone listening to ask themselves this question: who is allowed humanity? Because the Israeli and American propaganda machines have made it very clear who they think.
Do y'all remember when BLM burned down the entire country in the name of racial justice? Well, the organization has...
Remember when it was discovered that it was actually a bunch of far-right infiltrators and agitators who were burning down buildings and starting confrontations with police officers? Remember when it was actually the FBI infiltrating Black Lives Matter in Denver? Remember when it was actually black people telling non-black people to not vandalize things in the name of Black Lives Matter? No, of course you don't remember these things. You conveniently forget because it doesn't push your bullshit agendas.
What are your thoughts about what they all said? I think we have to get to a point where these people need to share their own opinion without bringing or dragging black people into it. So many black people are speaking up, supporting Palestine, that they are not in support of the massive genocide of kids. And here is what this lady has to say. I was able to get some few comments in the comment section. Like I said, her statement is actually very dumb. And here are some comments that I found. This person said she is a moral. Blows my mind a group of people that went through what they did is now doing it to another group. I think this person is talking about the Israel and the Palestine, saying because the Israels went through a phase like this, and to see them doing the same pain or inflicting that pain on other people is actually unbelievable. Like, to think they have gone through all of this, you would think they know better, but seeing what they are doing to the Palestine, a place that has a higher percentage of kids, is crazy and unbelievable. And again, this thing going on between Israel and Palestine confirms to us how these people are not actually against oppression. They just want to be the one doing the oppressing. Another comment that I got said, my friend who is in Israel and his entire family still live there has told me for years that Israel is starving the Palestinians. It is inhuman. These things they are doing, we agree that it is inhuman. And this is why I said no reasonable person is going to be in support of the massive genocide of kids. This person said, what about the tweet by the Israeli PM saying that their children are the light and Palestinians are the darkness? At this point, the Israelis are the whites and the Palestinians are the black. It's making a lot of sense. I would like to hear what you guys think in the comment section. What are your thoughts about what this lady said? What are your thoughts about her bringing black people into it? And when the black people burn down the entire country that we don't know, that we have forgotten about? Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you all so much for joining. And if you have not subscribed, please do so before you go. Smash the subscribe button and turn your bell notification on. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. And I love you guys.